Hey, welcome back to my channel. Today we are looking at Magic, Feared and Furious. I did use this book as a bit of an example in a previous video, Why Am I Doing This? And when I was talking about how I do reviews, if I read this book and I, for whatever reason, can't say anything good about it, then I just won't do the review video. And thankfully, I did read the book. I actually really liked it. I knew that there was going to be... they were going to be talking about Kelpie. There are going to be Kelpies. What I didn't know is whether or not this was going to be like... I don't know if people still do this, but when I was younger... they would take kids out camping and then they would take them on a snipe hunt. And the idea was that they were, basically a bunch of older kids were going out to have a laugh and the younger kids were going and chasing after this thing that doesn't actually exist. And from what I understand, there is now something that is called a snipe. So I don't know if there's an equivalent nowadays, that there is like some kind of mythological creature. I know people go Bigfoot hunting and Loch Ness monster hunting, but I don't know. I am not going to be one of those people that say those things aren't real, because I would love to think that Sasquatch or Bigfoot or Loch Ness monsters and Yetis, I love the idea that they may exist. So I never want anybody to disillusion me on that. Don't prove that they don't exist, but by all means give me all the proof that they do. But so in this world, Kelpies do exist, and actually magic exists, and all kinds of the red caps and the hinky punks and the other mythological creatures that you hear about, they all exist in the world of this book. And what I love about this is how Chantel kind of expands on Kelpie lore. And I didn't really know a lot about Kelpies other than they were these horses that basically looked like they were made of seaweed and moss and whatnot, and then they would grab people and then take them into the lochs, and then they would drown them. And that's pretty much all I knew about them. And even in, I did a review for Lauren O'Brien's book, Tidebound. And in that book, the prince has befriended a Kelpie and will go riding on the Kelpie, and it's not so much that he's a pet as they have a relationship where they have a mutual respect, the prince and the Kelpie does. And what I love about this is that there is a bit of new information. It was kind of exciting reading it, and I won't go into what she does because it's a huge spoiler, and I would hate to take that element of surprise away from everybody. But when I found out when she says what a Kelpie is in this world, I was just like, I love all of this. I want to know more about this. But she does it in a way that's very similar to how science and how we learn about animals in our own world. For instance, ostriches. And I'll explain how Kelpies and ostriches relate to each other. But the lore that she expands on with Kelpies doesn't take away from any other Kelpie lore out there. It doesn't contradict anything necessarily. It just adds a bit of more information. And we do this in our own world, where like with ostriches, there was a time when we couldn't get close enough to ostriches to find out what was actually happening, but what it looked like from our perspective was that it was very commonly believed that when frightened or startled, an ostrich would stick its head in the sand. And that was just what we believed, because we didn't have anything to contradict that until technology allowed us to get closer to ostriches to find out what was actually happening. And so what was actually happening was the ostrich would get down low. They would basically lay down, cover their feet with their feathers, and then they would lay their neck and head flat against the earth. And because of the color of their head and neck, it blended in well with the ground that they were laying on. And their tail feathers kind of resembled some of the scraggly bush around in the habitats that they were found in. And so it was easy for a predator who didn't have the eyesight that humans did to maybe overlook them, because what they saw was something the size and shape of a scraggly bush, and then they would go by it, rather than attack the ostrich necessarily. Now, if necessary, a ostrich will absolutely go into battle mode, and I don't know how many people actually know this, but typically ostriches win their fights. Like, for instance, if they're going up against a lion, the lion had better be really hungry if he wants this ostrich, because otherwise it's not worth the risk, because the ostrich has a very powerful leg and very sharp talons and will actually kick at the lion and dislocate its jaw, thereby causing the lion to not only be grievously injured but to starve to death, and the ostrich just goes about his way. But it works in the same way, to where we learn about an animal and we think we know something about the animal, and then we find out that what we had once believed about them was either incorrect or incomplete. And anytime we get new information about animals, of like, hey, like the Tyrannosaurus Rex, like there was they thought that there was these the Tyrannosaurus Rex was the only of its kind, and so they would find smaller versions and think they were juvenile Tyrannosaurus Rex, and then they find out that actually, no, they're a different dinosaur altogether. So now they're going through and reevaluating all the smaller juvenile T-Rex's skeletons to determine if they were actually a juvenile T-Rex or if they were a part of a different type of dinosaur altogether. And I always get excited when we learn more about the animals on our planet. I'm just a complete nerd in that aspect. So when we learn something new, I'm just like, oh, okay, I want to know more, So when we get into this book and they start talking about the lore of the Kelpies, where they came from, how they came to be, what they really are, I'm just like, yes! I was so excited about having more Kelpie lore. And it was one of those things like, I didn't know I needed more Kelpie lore. To get into what the book is about. It starts off with a prologue, and I know some people are like, I skipped the prologues. I don't know if the prologue is necessary or not. I like to read the prologues. I felt like I had a better idea of the story when I'm glad I read the prologue before getting into the heart of the story and getting into the first chapter, because it certainly gave me something to kind of chew on while we were going through the story. But it starts off with an adult male coming to a woman and asking her if she is the witch he had heard about. And they have this interaction where she's trying to decide, what to do with him. And then how to answer him and how to move forward from this interaction. but then you kind of go back in time. And you're not sure if you're going back in time or forward in time. It's just that there's a man, and he says, "Are you the witch?" And she dives into his mind and starts kind of unearthing a bunch of different things about his past. And then it cuts from the prologue to the first chapter, and then we meet Brennan, a 14-year-old boy living in Scotland. I'm not going to try and say the name of where he's living because I will absolutely butcher it, and I have way too much respect for Scottish culture to try and butcher their names. But he lives in a northern countryside. And then he lives with his mother and his 3 younger sisters. His father had done Kelpie hunting in the past, and he had promised, it was a tradition in this countryside village, that boys, once they turned 12, they would start Kelpie hunting with the men, and the men would teach them how to Kelpie hunt. And that was how they proved they were a man. And Brennan's father is taken by a Kelpie before Brennan turns 12. And his mother begs him not to go Kelpie hunting when he turns 12, to just stay away from Kelpie hunting altogether. And he promises her, but it causes him to be teased a lot. He's already teased a lot because he is the product of, he was born out of wedlock. And it's believed that kids who are born out of wedlock are witch-born and can turn evil because of their parents' transgressions before they were born. And so he's already getting teased because he's witch-born. He's getting teased because he's 2 years past his induction into Kelpie hunting and doesn't go Kelpie hunting with the other boys. And so he can't even find work because he can get odd jobs here and there, but very few people trust him because of the whole witch-born status. They're very superstitious. And so they're left to survive only on their mother's ability to preserve and bake blaeberries. And so his one of the boys kind of taunts him enough to talk him into going Kelpie hunting against his mother's wishes, with the promise of a hefty payout. And he decides to go ahead and try it. And he sneaks out of the house, and his sister sneaks out of the house with him. And he tries to get his sister back home. And in the process, his mother has come looking for them, and the Kelpies come out. And he watches as a Kelpie, the Kelpies have taken off with his father. Now a Kelpie has come and has taken his mother. So now he's this 14-year-old boy trying to take care of his 3 sisters. And fortunately, he does have an uncle in Glasgow that comes and claims him and his sisters and takes them to Glasgow and starts tutoring the girls. The girls are living in a lap of luxury. They are spoiled heiress-type girls. He trains Brennan to take over his business as a merchant, and the kids are living great, happy, wonderful lives. And when he is 19, the magistrate from his village tells him, we're no longer interested in taking care of your mother's house. You need to do something with it. And so he offers to come back and take what they have stored there and take it home with them, and everything else he will let the town decide. He will let different people in the town take over. So he gets with one of the merchants in his old village, tells him, you can have, we've got our keep pile and we got our sell pile. The keep pile we've already loaded in the carriage. He sends his 2 youngest sisters home. and tells the merchant that he is able to go and get the rest of whatever's left. He's welcome to. And in the meantime, he comes across a druid that he had met maybe once or twice before this point, who tells him that she's got a plan of fixing the Kelpie problem. And Brennan decides that he's going to help with the Kelpie problem for reasons that I won't get into. I've already given it a lot of way, but I don't want to give away the big twist and the big different things. But Brennan has his own personal vendetta against the Kelpies because, again, they took his parents. They're the reason his sisters and he are orphaned. So he agrees that, you know, they're talking about the Kelpie problem is getting worse. They're getting as far as Edinburgh. And he knows that if they're as far as Edinburgh, they're going to get to Glasgow. And he has a renewed vigor of, okay, I will do whatever it takes to help with this Kelpie problem because eventually it's going to be my problem again. But there's quite a few different things that happen. And he's a stubborn boy, and the oldest of his younger sisters, Moira, is also very stubborn, so he has that to contend with. Nora and Slane are a little bit more... He can easily send them home because they're gonna go home. They're like, you know, we don't want to go home without you. And he's like, you want to stay here with the Kelpies? And they're like, not really. We're gonna go home to Glasgow. We're gonna go back to the parties. And he's like, have a good one, you know? So they're a little easier to coax back home. Moira and him, they have fond memories of this childhood home. And so it's a little harder to pull her away. But I do love... I just really liked this story. I like the world that Chantel built in this, and how she added to the lore of the Kelpies. And it was just such an enjoyable ride reading this. So that's all I'm going to say about it, because, like I said, I can't say more about it without giving more away, except to say that it was interesting because when he first talks to this witch at the prologue, you know, and then he's later talking to the druid, my first thought is this the druid that, like, is he reconnecting with the druid years later, and he's just insulted her by calling a druid a witch, because a witch and a druid are two very different things in this world. And then you find out that no, he was actually talking to a witch, and you find out about her connection to the Kelpies. And yeah, like I said, it was so fascinating to just dive in and just let the lore of Kelpie just be over, just let the Kelpie lore wash over me, and just I completely kind of disappeared into this book for a couple of nights, honestly. So I definitely would recommend it to anybody who likes fantasy, anybody who likes people, like, if you were a fan of the Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them movies, or if you like any movies that deal with fantastical creatures or mythological creatures, this is definitely going to be a book you're going to enjoy. So as usual, the link to the book will be in the description below. This is just book one. This is the Ever Rising series. So yeah, definitely, I would definitely recommend you guys getting yourself a copy of it. Until next time, I'll see you guys later. Bye.